Into this week's edition of the Cowboys Report. The Cowboys season is over. Yeah. But Tom, there's a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it sucks because the season's over, but I love the offseason. So it's, good and bad, I guess.
I am Brett
Scott.
Like
the Cowboys here.
I am Brett Scott. Alongside me is Tom Downey. Follow him on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for all of your NFL draft, Cowboys, and much, much more that you need on Twitter. That's for sure. Today's episode is sponsored by The Guild. If you are headed to Austin, which you need to do, of course, you need to stay with The Guild, a new concept in hospitality in Austin, Texas. Luxury lodging at the best residential buildings in Austin. It's like a luxury Airbnb. Comes with a virtual concierge. Just visit stayguild.com. Use that promo code CHATSPORTS for 15% off your next stay. Tom, do you like to feel fancy?
I do like to feel fancy.
That virtual concierge is going to make you feel fancy.
Okay.
If you need to know the best bars and restaurants, or maybe even a spa down on 6th Street.
Yeah, because I haven't been to Austin since I was a wee lad. So.
A wee lad?
Yes.
Tom calls himself a Texas Longhorns fan for some reason, though. No?
Awesome city. I wanted to go there. I was told that we're not paying for a plane ticket that costs that much.
That's right. We're going to kick things off on today's Cowboys Report with a little rapid-fire news and rumors roundup. Tom, let's get into it. People want to know, is Scott Linehan staying on as the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, we're giving this one 3 stars here. And not only is he likely to stay, Brett, he might be getting more power within the way the offense is run.
I don't know how that's going to work. We're going to talk more about it as we come up. Next up here on our rapid fire, tight ends coach Steve Loney. He's retiring.
Yeah, that one was actually announced by Jason Garrett. So it's 4 stars. Des Bryant caught it. It's a fact.
It's a fact right there. Assistant coaches Wade Wilson, quarterbacks coach Joe Baker, secondary coach, they're gone.
Not officially announced yet, but they will not be returning. Wade Wilson probably going to end up retiring as well. He's had a very long career as a quarterbacks coach.
For those of you that don't know what the rapid rumorometer stars mean, 0 stars, it's fake news. 1 star, there's a little shred of truth. 2 stars,
people are talking.
3 stars, it's pretty likely. 4 stars, Des caught it. That's a fact, folks. Book it. All right, let's keep going here on our rumorometer. Next up, is Kellen Moore set to be the next quarterbacks coach, Tom?
We've made this comment on many Cowboys reports before, and I think if indeed Wade Wilson does retire, Kellen Moore is the top candidate for the Dallas Cowboys.
Scott Linehan, he's his guy. That's right. Next up, linebackers coach Matt Eberflus. He's leaving.
Yeah, this is a real toss-up here because he wasn't allowed to interview for the Niners DC job last year. Didn't sign an extension. He wants to be a DC. He might get that this year. If not, don't be surprised if he comes back for like a 1-year deal.
Look out, Patriots. Matt Patricia leaving. Could be a good spot for him. Rich Bisaccia, special teams coach. Is he up with the groomers?
Yeah, he's going to be joining John Gruden's staff once that's officially finalized because it's just a matter of time because that one's going to happen. 2
more rumors and news to get to here. Tom, what is going on with Derek Dooley? Is he gone or is he not gone?
Well, maybe not so fast. There was the report from Ian Rappaport and Mike Fisher that said, hey, he's going to go be a college OC. He might have actually played everyone to get more power and a better contract with the Dallas Cowboys.
Derek Dooley didn't do too good at Tennessee, but maybe he just played us all this week. All right, last one here. Tom, are former Cowboys set to become assistant coaches this year?
I think there's a pretty good chance there. Look for the offensive line and receivers coach if Derek Dooley doesn't leave. Couple names to throw out at you. Miles Austin, Andre Garrard, Mark Colombo.
Love them all. Let's get into it. We will get into the rest of the Cowboys report right now. That's some good stuff, though. I am Brett Scott. This is Tom Downey. Tom, lots of news and rumors to parse through. Cowboys assistant coaches, a lot of turnover. No turnover on top with Jason Garrett sticking around. Looks like the coordinators are set to stick around as well.
Don't know if this is going to go over very well.
Yeah, we'll get into your guys' comments, of course, as well as we go along the show. Get them in there, and we will chat it up Cowboys style. First up, Tom, it's the offseason. So let's take a look at what the Cowboys are looking at in terms of free agents. We'll start at the quarterback position. Zach Dysert, he's a free agent.
And I think I'm still going to maintain that this is the best backup quarterback on the Cowboys roster. I will remain, I guess, the Zach Dysert truther on the staff here. I think had he not been hurt.
Hold on. Yeah. When have we ever said that?
I think I said that when they signed him, and I wanted him to be the actual backup over Kellen Moore before Cooper Rush became, actual quality.
Wait, so are you saying Zach Dysert better backup than Cooper Rush?
Yeah, I am saying that.
Wow, there it is.
I've seen both of them play quite a bit from their time at Mac schools, and Zach Dysert's a better quarterback. Injuries have been a factor there. He was on IR all year, but the Cowboys didn't release him outright, which they could have done when he first went down. They kept him all year on IR. He's a restricted free agent. He'll be back, and he'll at least compete and push Cooper Rush for the backup job.
All right, in the backfield as well, Keith Smith is a restricted free agent this year too.
I mean, I would imagine that Keith Smith decides to return here because why wouldn't he return? Like, He's been the Cowboys fullback, and he's done a very good job of that. I'll be surprised if he's not back in the same role on a very cheap contract. Again, restricted free agents means that they don't really have the same rights to go out and explore with other teams. Other teams can make deals, but Cowboys can offer or get a pick back depending on what tag they give them.
Tough position to garner a lot of interest in free agency. Anyway, sticking in the backfield, Alfred Morris is an unrestricted free agent this year. Tom, I don't know what the Cowboys are going to do here. You could maybe even see the Cowboys draft a running back.
I actually would like the Cowboys to draft a halfback, and I think that you frankly, as nice as Alfred Morris was, would you prefer Alfred Morris or Rod Smith, Brett?
I, toward the end of the year, was more on the Rod Smith bandwagon than Alfred Morris.
Could not agree more.
I thought Alfred Morris did do a good job.
He did do a good job
in the role, though.
Look, he was fine for the role he needed to play as a nice backup halfback, but we saw that Rod Smith can be the backup. Rod Smith offers more in the passing game and on special teams. If the Cowboys go out and get somebody else, I think the answer is you spend a latest round pick on a guy that can be a true scat back.
Sure.
A undersized back to kind of truly fill the Lance Dunbar role, which the Cowboys no longer have one of those on the roster.
Yeah, and typically a good down and distance type of guy that can get Ezekiel Elliott off the field for a couple of snaps a game.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to Brice Butler. Seeing a comment here from Maria saying keep Brice Butler. Tommy is an unrestricted free agent. He does seem to have that chemistry with Dak, which is kind of strange.
It was very weird. For whatever reason, Dak and Brice always seem to be on the same page in a way that Dez wasn't with Dak, in a way with, well, when it comes to actually catching the football, that Terrence Williams never was able to do for the Cowboys. Butler is a free agent, and I understand why people want him back, and I think in a nice, perfect world, you would totally bring back Brice Butler. But unless you cut Dez Bryant, how are you going to upgrade the receiving corps because maybe you cut Cole Beasley, which I think is an option. We'll discuss more on that on future Cowboys shows. Terrence Williams, because of his contract, is more or less stuck with the Cowboys for next year. So if you keep Dez, which I think is what's going to happen.
Maybe it's the other way around.
You keep T-Will. You keep Switzer for sure. You'd like to keep Noah Brown as your sixth receiver because I know the staff is high on him.
Blocking back, or blocking receiver.
And you also want to add another receiver in the draft. I think at that point it becomes, well, sorry, Brice, we're going to go out and spend a higher pick on somebody, and we'll let you leave.
Let's get into it here. A couple of comments here. Philip Nichols, bring in Sammy Watkins, and Antonio May saying Jarvis Landry. Tom, in terms of the wide receiver free agency outlook, two questions. One, are any of those guys options? But two, do the Cowboys really have the cap flexibility to go after a big name receiver like a Landry or a Watkins?
Yes and no, I think is the end question here, because if you're going to cut Dez Bryant, you can save up to $8 million and maybe a little bit more, which does give you some flexibility. But my big overall concern is, okay, are you going to be able to afford a Sammy Watkins, a Jarvis Landry, an Allen Robinson, whoever you think is the top receiver in this year's class, at $8 million? And honestly, probably not. Like, Jarvis Landry is going to get paid. He'd be a great fit with Dak, but I don't know if you want to pay a slot guy that much when you just spent a fourth-round pick on one in Ryan Switzer. Sammy Watkins, who I continue to like, actually wasn't all that productive this year outside of touchdowns.
Sure.
So maybe you don't go Watkins, plus he's got an injury history. Allen Robinson coming off the injury. So I think what the Cowboys are ultimately going to decide here is they're going to try and keep Dez at what he is, maybe try and get him to take a pay cut, which probably isn't going to happen. But I think they'll decide that, look, the $8 million we can save with Dez is not enough to upgrade the receiving core in the way we need to do it.
So a lot of likes coming through on the reaction poll for Brice Butler. People want to keep him around. Sounds good. Let's take a look at the offensive line now, Tom. Jonathan Cooper, the left guard, is a free agent, unrestricted free agent. What do you think the Cowboys do with Cooper after picking him up last year?
I think that Cooper was fine at the left guard role, and maybe he wasn't as good as the guys they've had in the past, but he should be relatively cheap. The good news is for Cooper, folks, is he did go down in Week 17, but he's fine. There was no serious knee injury, so he's going to be okay. I would imagine...
It looked ugly, too.
It did look bad. I think it was more fear of, oh, my God, I actually really hurt myself here. I think you'll see the Cowboys try and bring back Cooper on a relatively cheap contract, because I don't think he'll be that expensive, because, frankly, I think playing with the rest of that offensive line makes him look better than he actually is. He was clearly better than Chaz Green. He was better than another guy we'll talk about here in just a second, but I would not be opposed to the Cowboys looking into upgrading the left guard spot. The biggest issue, Brett, you cannot invest another high pick, per se, like a first, second round pick, or spend a lot of money when you're going to have it tied up with Frederick and Martin and Smith.
Yeah.
And Leo Collins, too. You can't just keep throwing first-round picks at one spot.
2 other free agents on that offensive line. Next one is Joe Looney. Played only 94 snaps, but for the most part was the top backup on the interior.
If you want to bring him back, cool, go for it. I think this could be an example of this is a guy that you could see the Cowboys re-sign for limited to no guaranteed money, draft somebody in the later rounds too, and let he and Looney kind of compete for that backup guard spot. Looney's nice because he can play center too, but I mean, there's a reason he is a cheap backup offensive lineman. He's not a guy you want playing real snaps.
Quick comment coming from Terrence saying we need a stud left tackle. Well, I think we have a stud left tackle.
Why are we still? No, hold on, Brett. Why are we still doing this? Why are we?
Sorry, Terrence. I was going to try and move on, but Tom's going to rant now.
Isn't a great left tackle. If you want to get more depth, awesome. But Tyron Smith, when he plays, is fantastic, and you can tell the difference between when he's on the field and when he's off the field.
All right, so his backup, Byron Bell, or one of his backups, Byron Bell, is an unrestricted free agent.
He's got to go. Like swing tackle, I think is often overlooked, but it is a huge need right now for the Dallas Cowboys because we saw Byron Bell and Chaz Green get abused all year long. Chaz Green, I think, almost broke Dak Prescott at one point last year with the way he had played because it really hurt Dak Prescott with his on-the-field abilities because he didn't look comfortable when Chaz Green was getting destroyed without Tyron Smith. So Byron Bell was better than Chaz Green, but frankly, not by much. They were both graded out as 2 of the worst tackles in the NFL.
All right, Terrence coming back saying Tyron is a beast, so maybe he is on.
All right, we're on the same page. Maybe he meant backup.
We're good, Terrence. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate all the comments flowing through. We'll get to some more as we go along. I am Brett Scott. This is Tom Downey. Follow him on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. Let's take a look at the free agents on defense. We start with really the Cowboys' top defender of the year,
the big boy,
DeMarcus Lawrence.
He is going to get paid, and if you're Jerry Jones, you got to say, all right, here's the checkbook. Let's sign a big old contract with a lot of guaranteed money to the war daddy that he wanted to find so badly is on the roster. Finally became the guy I think we were hoping we would see last year before the suspension and before the back injury. Now he's emerged. You got to find a way to keep DeMarcus Lawrence. Worst case scenario, if you're the Cowboys, you are franchise tagging him, even though it's going to be pricey.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him doing that. It's going to be pricey though, and just with the Cowboys, they got to pay Martin too.
Yeah,
it's going to be tight if you want to go and try and sign anybody else.
It is.
I think in the secondary, you're pretty much just going to bank on the youth that you got there. You got to keep developing them.
I mean, you're looking at a $15 million a year for DeMarcus Lawrence,
yep.
And I think maybe the Melvin Ingram contract is what you'll see them end up giving him, but he is going to get paid a significant amount of money. You're looking, maybe the Everson Griffin contract is a good baseline too, 14, 15 million. That's what he's going to ask for.
Yeah.
Don't give him Olivier Vernon money, which kind of helped ruin the defensive end market, where it's 17 mil per year. But I think you can get him under that.
Well, I think you could be looking at the franchise tag situation after the year he just had. Let's take a look at another free agent on the defensive line, and that's David Irving. He missed the last few games with a concussion. Seems kind of serious, possibly.
Yeah.
He is a restricted free agent. Tom, what's kind of his contract situation since it's a little bit different?
Yeah, so when we talk about restricted free agency, what we mean is that these players can't just go sign with whomever they want.
Right.
They are restricted. What you'll see the Cowboys do is that there are tenders involved, and there are varying levels of tenders. There's the original draft tender, which for Irving is actually unrestricted free agent. There's a second-round tender and a first-round tender. And, of course, the higher up you get, the more money that is spent and given towards that player. So when it comes to David Irving, restricted free agency, the Cowboys will tender him either first or second round. If a team offers Irving another contract, the Cowboys can match that or get that pick in exchange. And I wouldn't be totally surprised, Brett. I wouldn't be all that surprised if the Cowboys gave Irving maybe a second-round tender. And if someone gives him a big contract, maybe they just take that second-round pick. Because Irving next year is going to be unrestricted, and he's going to be really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're going to invest a lot of money in Zach Martin, as you said, and DeMarcus Lawrence. It is going to be a little tight to give Irving all that money for a guy who has had injury past and suspension problems.
I've seen a lot of great comments coming in. We're going to talk draft. We're going to talk free agency. Tom, sticking on the defensive line, Tim does have a quick question regarding Randy Gregory.
I would just assume that Gregory's not going to come back, and if he does, cool. That's a very nice boost there. I don't know if we're going to see Gregory come back at any point.
Quick reaction poll in terms of top free agent priority. Tom, what are you thinking here? I think it's got to be DeMarcus Lawrence,
It's
right?
DeMarcus Lawrence without a doubt. He has been so fantastic this year. He became the dynamic edge rusher the Cowboys needed. You have to bring him back no matter what.
That's right. We're going to stick on the defensive line here in terms of free agency. Stephen Paez next
Yeah,
up.
didn't retire. Remember that? Like he announced retirement. The Cowboys were like, no, don't retire quite yet. We'll just put you on IR and try and convince you to come back next year. I don't know if we're going to see that happen, but I wanted to include him anyway.
Sneaking him in on
I'm
me a little
saying
bit.
there's a chance. Yeah, I did.
All right, let's go to
Tell you.
Brian Brice next. He's got an exclusive rights free agent deal. Tom, explain what the exclusive rights one is.
I think here what we mean with Brian Brice is in particular here, with exclusive rights, it means basically the Cowboys say, hey, here's your contract, either sign it or don't play football next year. So when it comes to exclusive rights there, that's all it is. That's all it is for the Cowboys there. Brian Brice, excuse me. So he'll be back if the Cowboys want him back, and I'm sure they will, at the very least, as another depth option on that defensive line.
Let's move to linebacker now. This is a key position for the Cowboys. Some age there, and then obviously Sean Lee in terms of injuries.
Yeah.
Jalen Smith continued to improve, but let's talk about Anthony Hitchens. Is he going to be back?
This is going to be a tough one because he's going to get he's going to get starter money on the open market. He's going to get $4 or $5 million per year, I think, at the very least. And if you're the Cowboys, do you want to invest that much in a linebacker who is good but not great? I don't know if that's what the Cowboys want to do, and he could end up going higher and higher in terms of his salary. You have Sean Lee, you have Jalen Smith. Those are your two starters more or less when the Cowboys typically don't use three linebackers all that much. So I think when it comes to Anthony Hitchens, there's a real chance he's not back, and if he's not, linebacker is a big need because there is no depth right now. So I would not be surprised if you see the Cowboys, Brett, add multiple linebackers in the draft, both early and later on.
Some comments coming through. Battle cry for Roquan Smith, the Georgia Bulldog, getting ready to play in a national championship.
Would be great. I don't think he'll last to 19. And I don't think, because the Cowboys didn't lose to the Eagles, I don't know if you're going to see them try and trade up and get him.
Tom, we're not going to let you rant about whether or not the Cowboys should have tanked against the Eagles. You always beat the Eagles. Let's go back to linebacker free agent Kyle Wilber.
He is almost an exclusive special teams guy. He's had a very strange career. He was originally drafted to fit in that 3-4 scheme for the Cowboys, and they kind of moved him into the backup strong side position. He's a special teams guy. He might come back, but he is easily replaceable, I believe.
Let's go into the portion of free agents.
Yeah.
That's Justin Marsh-Lillard.
The next three kind of are who, I think, to an extent. This is another exclusive rights free agent guy. Only played special teams. The Cowboys added him late this year. Had a handful of tackles, excuse me.
Whoa.
I merged tackles and stats into tackles, I guess.
Tackle stats. There it is.
Stats.
We'll start using that one.
New word. Did that on purpose. So, whatever if he comes back. He'll probably be a guy that gets carried through the year and maybe not makes the final roster.
You see the youth in the secondary when your only free agent has been a Ben Wickery.
And I don't really care what happens to him. I still want to see Marquez White. He was added to the futures contract because he was on practice squad all year. This is a guy that Cowboys gave up a 6th-round pick for next year to play and essentially be a special teams and backup guy, which I don't know if I like giving up a 6th-round pick for, but that's okay.
Last unrestricted free agent is on the special teams unit, and that's LP Laducia.
Yeah, the long snapper who has literally been perfect. He doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, no one knows his name, and that's a good thing because if you know your long snapper's name, probably means he's making mistakes. If he still wants to play at age 37, bring him back. Why not at that point? Because he's been fantastic.
Yeah, I think you always bring the long snapper back unless he's
making mistakes.
As long as he's good and as long as he wants to play football.
Yeah.
There's just keep bringing him back. There's not going to be a huge market out there, so you don't have to compete too much.
He occasionally makes a tackle, and at age 37, if he wants to keep playing, let him keep playing. Let him play for as long as he wants, unless he starts making bad snaps, which he never does.
He does get down there on punts, doesn't he?
He does.
It's
for a 37-year-old guy.
This is the most we've talked about the long snapper in a while, Tom, but it's always fun to talk a little LP.
It'll be the last time we do it unless he resigns or doesn't resign.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we will promise to bring up LP.
Yeah.
at least one more
At
time
least.
this offseason.
Promise, you guys.
Promise. That's a promise. You can book it. I am Brett Scott. This is Tom Downey. We've got some comments to get through. Hey, Tom, Earl Thomas. Joshua wants to know, do we need him in the secondary? The answer is probably yes.
I would love to get Earl Thomas.
He's still got a year in Seattle, though.
Yeah,
so just because he came and talked to Jason Garrett doesn't mean he's coming next year.
Let's reevaluate this after this year because I don't think Dallas is going to trade for him. These Seahawks are not going to cut him. So we can come back and discuss this later. I would love to get him, but I don't think we're going to have that really.
All right, Jay Cool. That's a pretty cool name, isn't it?
It is a cool name, yeah.
Maybe his name's Tyler. Maybe his last name's Tyler. I'm not sure. Outside linebacker. Haven't had one since where? Talking more about the pass rush.
It's DeMarcus Lawrence is your DeMarcus Ware replacement. The Cowboys don't use that 3-4 outside backer scheme anymore.
Right.
They don't use that defense. So you don't need a stand-up edge rusher at outside linebacker. You want defensive ends like DeMarcus Lawrence who gets to the passer.
Mm-hmm. All right, Alan chiming in. We need a wide receiver.
It's going to be an area that the Cowboys address. I wouldn't be surprised if Cole Beasley is gone. I think that's a real possibility. We'll talk more about guys that could be cut on next week's show. I think Dez Bryant is going to be an option there as well. And you could look in the draft early to find a receiver. There are going to be guys available early.
David, offensive coach in terms of area of need, pretty good transition.
I'm actually kind of surprised that wasn't the first comment we got.
It might have been. Producer Lena might have snuck that in as a very, very nice transition. Once again, I am Brett Scott. That is Tom Downey. Today's show is sponsored by The Guild. If you need a trip to Austin, you need to stay with The Guild. Luxury lodging at the best residential buildings in Austin. And you know what, Tom? I know all you guys out there that aren't living in Dallas already are coming to spend the NFL draft with us.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Good news, the Guild is opening up locations in Dallas. Mm-hmm. So when you come and visit us here in Dallas for the NFL draft, you need to stay with the Guild. StayGuild.com. Use that promo code ChatSports for 15% off your next stay. All right, Tom. A lot of turnover happening on the assistant coach's side.
Just maybe not where the people want it.
Yeah, just maybe not quite where you want it. Let's take a listen to what Jason Garrett had to say this week about it.
Assistant coaches have expiring contracts. You guys made a decision on who you're bringing back, and will you bring back both coordinators, or where you on there?
Yeah, we haven't made any decisions on our coaches. I've spent the last day and a half just talking to our players. You know, we had a staff meeting early yesterday morning, and what our objective is to have everybody visit with the players in their exit physical. So I'll meet with all of them. The coordinators will meet with them. The individual position coaches will meet with them. So that's really been our emphasis. And then once we get done with that, we'll get into the staff discussions.
Supportive of Rod and Scott, what do they bring to the table for you, and is it too rash to make a drastic change, I guess, coming off a 9-7 season?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about any staff discussions in that regard, but obviously both those guys have been really good at their jobs for a long time in this league, and they've provided very good leadership for us on each side of the ball, and we've been productive, you know, in those areas since those guys have been here. So always room for improvement. We have to get better. Each unit has to get better. We get that. We understand that, and we'll continue to try to do that.
You still have decisions to make or not on your coaching staff. If there aren't significant changes, why should people expect the results to be different? Yeah, all the while knowing that there's natural attrition on rosters and guys will be added and drafted and signed and things.
Yeah, again, I think there are a lot of good building blocks in place on our football team. There will be some changes to our coaching staff. There'll be some changes on our roster, and we'll be very determined to make sure those changes are for the better. But there are a lot of positive things that we can build on as we go forward. Some good young players have been added to our team, you know, in the last couple of years. They've helped us win some games over the last couple of years, and we'll keep trying to help those guys develop individually and help our team develop and grow and continue to take the next steps.
But you yourself, you don't see the scheme as being a major problem. You know, obviously you're going to look at it and tweak it or whatever else, but the scheme itself is not the issue.
Again, we always look at what we do in all phases of our team. So you're always evaluating the scheme first. What are we asking our players to do? And then you talk about the specific players doing specific things within your scheme. And hopefully your scheme is flexible enough to take advantage of the different things that guys are capable of doing. And that's always been our approach. So we'll continue to have that. We'll be very honest and direct in addressing what we think the issues are and try to make the necessary improvements as we move along.
As you build this coaching staff, is new blood, fresh ideas important, maybe specifically to this team or maybe speaking generally?
Oh, I think it's always important. Again, your teams are not the same from year to year. You always have new blood on your roster. Guys leaving free agency, guys retire, guys move on. You draft a new class. You sign guys in free agency, you sign young players in college free agency, and you add to your team. So there's always that part of it, and you always like to have that really on your coaching staff as well. And you're always trying to grow and evolve and innovate and get better and better and better. So that's part of what you try to do each and every year, and we'll do that again this year.
Those were Jason Garrett's comments this week about the coaching staff, Tom.
Yeah, interesting ones, and I think the overarching theme there is there's going to be change, folks, but maybe not the top-level change we wanted to see happen.
If you joined us at the top, we gave you a little preview of our news and rumors roundup. We're going to get into it in detail now. And we start off with a little explanation of all the stars that you're going to see. 0 stars, well, that means it's fake news, basically. And it's the amount of Eagles Super Bowl rings.
Doesn't exist.
It's going to stay at 0 this year as well. 1 star, there's a small shred of truth. 2 stars, people are talking. People are talking. It means it's out there. Can't say whether or not either way it's going to go. 3 stars, it's pretty likely to happen. And then 4 stars, it's a fact. Dez caught it.
Because Dez caught it.
Dez caught it.
That's what happened.
Let's start off with Scott Linehan. Is he going to return as the offensive coordinator? This one comes from Mike Fisher. Looks pretty likely.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's going to happen because Jason Garrett hasn't really said it himself, but everything we've heard
Votes of confidence
has indicated, like, yeah, we're happy with Linehan. He did sign an extension last year, and not only that, with the way the staff is already kind of being shuffled, which we'll discuss here, it kind of seems like Linehan is actually getting some more input with the way the offense is run.
Yeah, Fisher is more or less reporting that. Linehan is getting more power.
And remember, this is still a Jason Garrett-Linehan combo offense.
Yeah.
It's not just Linehan or just Garrett's scheme.
That's right. Let's go on to our second news and rumor here. This is just straight up news. It's a fact. 4 stars. Dez caught it. Tight ends coach Steve Loney has retired.
They will need somebody else. He was only here for a year. They had their other tight ends coach leave last year. So I don't know. Maybe you just get a placeholder for a year and then hire Jason Witten next year or whenever he decides to retire.
That's right.
Sounds like a win-win.
All right,
hire me.
We're calling the next one a fact. Coming from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, assistant coaches Wade Wilson and Joe Baker are gone.
Yeah, these two are both going to be out. Wade Wilson probably going to elect to retire. Secondaries coach Joe Baker just going to go ahead and leave and go find a different job with maybe a bit of a mutual decision / the Cowboys getting their way here. And then I think with Baker, I think the Cowboys give a lot of credit to Greg Jackson, who is the other secondaries coach came over from Michigan. I think he's gotten a lot of credit for the way the secondary has played this year. A young secondary that really improved down the stretch.
So with Wade Wilson out, quarterbacks coach is a spot to fill. Could it be Kellen Moore?
I think that this is probably going to happen.
Yeah. We're giving it 3 stars, pretty likely.
I'm not going to verify it quite yet, but I think with Linehan, we know he loves Kellen Moore probably more than maybe he loves his wife. Like, I think there's that level of love there because Linehan is a huge fan of Kellen Moore, even though he was not a good actual quarterback.
Yeah.
But we've said this really for, a year now, Brett? He's going to make a great coach.
Yeah.
So I actually, as much as I hated Kellen Moore, the backup quarterback, I really like Kellen Moore, the potential coach.
Now, there's been some talk this year that Kellen Moore wasn't that interested in mentoring and helping Dak out.
Well, now he's going to be a coach. And I think he kind of realized I'm not going to be an actual quarterback. I might as well go start my coaching career, which he has a bright career.
Shouldn't he have realized that week 1 this year when he was cut?
Maybe when they put him on the practice squad? Yeah, I think that makes some sense. So,
all right. Some more coaching turnover at the linebackers coach position. Matt Eberflus, is he leaving, Tom?
I actually am a little concerned the Cowboys will lose him. The Cowboys offered him an extension last year when guys like Linehan and Marinelli were all extended, and he said, no, I'm not going to sign my extension. He wanted to interview for the 49ers defensive coordinator job. He did not get that job because he wasn't allowed to interview. The Cowboys said, no, we're blocking you from interviewing. We don't want to lose you for the Niners DC position. And I think Eberflus was a little bit like, I don't like that. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. So he is looking around with his contract now up. He's looking around at other positions where he could possibly go be a DC somewhere. He really wants that. There had been a little bit of speculation, not really buzz, that Marinelli could become the assistant head coach and kind of move up a level and then have Eberflus be the DC, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Tom, how often does it happen where a team is going to block one of their position coaches from becoming or interviewing for a coordinator position?
More than you would think, actually. It happens relatively frequently when they're under contract. That's why you sometimes see coaches not sign bigger contracts. Sometimes it's also they blocked him when he's like, I don't want to interview. I don't want to tell him I don't want to interview. So just say that you blocked me. But I think this was a case where he wants to be a DC and he's looking around this year to get that job. If he doesn't get a DC job, maybe he comes back. But I think there's a good chance that he does find one.
Let's go to our next news and rumor here on the list. This one coming from Todd Archer. It looks like special teams coach Rich Bisaccia is loving him some groomers.
Yeah.
And he's going to head over to Oakland with John Groomer. John Groomer.
Nice.
John Gruden, who may or may not become the next Oakland Raiders head coach. Can we just get on with the dance?
Gruden, who
it's outrageous already.
Gruden, who isn't the head coach, but has already pinpointed who he wants as the OC, DC, and the special teams coach. The three most important jobs.
He's not going to become the coach. Okay.
Yeah. So look, he's going to leave.
4 stars here.
He's going to leave. Yeah. Bisaccia's not going to come back. I think if there is another option, I have a name for you here. How about current Raiders special teams coach Brad Seeley?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Has some ties to some staff. I think he could be the option. So a trade, so to speak.
I have seen that name thrown around. All right, let's go to Derek Dooley. This is a weird situation.
Yeah.
Coming up from Ian Rappaport at NFL Network. Possibly was just flat out fake news last week.
I don't know if it was fake news. I think it was more that Dooley just played everyone. So Dooley had more or less Dooley's camp and his side of the league. Hey, he's going to go be an OC at the college level. Which when I heard, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I thought, well, I'm like, wait a minute, what OC jobs are open right now? Not very many of them. What kind of sounds like has happened potentially is that Dooley has parlayed his interest in being a college OC into getting a bigger deal and more input with the Cowboys offense. And I think that's what we're going to see happen. I wouldn't be all that surprised. I'll keep it at 2 those because I don't really know what's going on right now with Derek Dooley. So just that people are talking, but he might get an extension and more input in the playbook, which he hasn't had up to this point.
I tell you what, when I saw Derek Dooley was leaving, I was thinking Miles Austin, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, could several former Cowboys become assistant coaches this year, Tom? You're giving it 3 stars and pretty likely.
Mark Colombo kind of is an assistant coach. And I wouldn't be all that surprised.
I mean, Miles Austin is somewhat an assistant coach already as well.
He's on the staff with some scouting role. I actually could see this scenario happening. Cowboys fire their own line coach, Frank Pollock, who I think they kind of blame for some issues with the offensive line this year. And then I think the other main area is if that happens, Linehan and Garrett like Mark Colombo a lot. And I think you can see Colombo get the call up from the assistant here into the main one.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a good chance we see some former Cowboys here as actual coaches. Andre Garrard could take a role as a lower level assistant as well.
That's right. All right, those were 8 news and rumor nuggets from around not Valley Ranch anymore, but the Star. Let's take a look at them in summary real quick. Scott Linehan staying on as offensive coordinator. Tight ends coach Loney, he's gone. He's retired. 4 stars. Assistant coach Wade Wilson and Baker. They out
so
too.
No more Deadpool jokes. Not that I make a lot of those around Wade Wilson, but
I'm not going to know what any of that means, though, Tom.
Good. That just means that you're not a nerd like me.
All right. Kellen Moore looking possible, pretty likely. We're going to call it that he's going to become the next quarterback's coach.
Hey, I was with the audience who didn't like Kellen Moore as the backup, but I do like his potential as a coach.
All right. Eberflus leaving?
Yeah, I'm worried about him, and I would like to keep him, but don't know if it's going to happen.
Bisaccia, he's going with the Groomers. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's gone. He's not coming back. New special teams coach coming in next year.
Derek Dooley looks like he's gonna. We're gonna say he's gonna stay.
It's confusing to me, and I think it's confusing to everyone. Fisher and Rapport both, I think, got played a little bit, and I think we might see Dooley kind of stay around a little bit longer.
And then 3 stars, pretty likely that a former Cowboy will become an assistant coach. Tom, let's talk about this. The Cowboys are not going to make any changes at the top levels.
Yeah, they're not.
The coaching staff, which I think has most of the Cowboys world upset at least to a bit.
Understandably so. Like, it's frustrating to see the offense clearly not work this year. And then to say, you know what, we're just going to shuffle around some of the bottom pieces. It's not even putting a Band-Aid on the wound. It's like just wiping off the blood and saying, okay, this is fine now. Like, we took care of it. Like, I don't have a great analogy there, so I'm sorry about that. But like, it's I understand why the fans are upset about it because I want Linehan gone too. I'll make a brief argument here on the flip side. You know, the offense worked really well the previous years when the quarterback was healthy. So maybe they don't need to overhaul everything. Maybe they just need to go in and update the engine a little bit.
Yeah, so Mike Fisher had an article today that was pretty interesting in terms of he believes that the Cowboys are confusing new blood with fresh ideas. And so if the Cowboys just continue to recycle quote-unquote Cowboys guys, does anything even change?
And I think that's a great point, because you lose your quarterbacks coach, and you, in theory, could replace him with Kellen Moore, and then you give Derek Dooley some more input maybe at the wide receiver position, and you overhaul the secondary. Like, you haven't really changed anything with new ideas. You're just bringing in guys that have been promoted from the lesser positions. I don't know if these changes are actually real change, or if they're just, some cosmetic adjustments.
That's right. All right, that's going to do it for today's Cowboys Report. Just a reminder, today's Cowboys Report was sponsored by The Guild. Visit stayguild.com for 15% off your next stay when you use that promo code CHATSPORTS. New concept in hospitality, luxury lodging at the finest residential buildings located in Austin, Texas. And since it's now 2018, look forward to new locations in Miami, Nashville, and right here in Dallas when you visit us for the NFL Draft. That's going to do it for today's Cowboys Report. We'll be back next Thursday, 1 p.m. Central Time, right here in Dallas. And Tom, what do you got?
Cap cuts, team needs. That's next week, so we got some good ideas
and
for
plus
you.
Plenty of more news and rumors in
Yes,
the
we
roundup
will.
to go through. For Tom, I am Brett. We'll see you next week.